right there. You can ask her. She's going to be up here, correct? Jackie asked where you were sitting. You guys ready? Jackie? Or Karen, you ready? Okay. Could. No, I have mine. If I could have everyone's attention, we're going to get underway shortly. So good evening, and on behalf of the Community Roundtable, welcome to the Community Roundtable's annual Meet the Candidate event. I'm Rosalind Ehrman, the incoming Roundtable Chair. Also here tonight is Vice Chair Karen Berardi, Secretary Jackie Owens, Treasurer Carol Spellman, and outgoing Treasurer Jim Morrison are in the lobby. Director Lila Richards and Director Deliza Lee. Past Chair Carrie Valmassey and Director Jennifer Cowan are unable to be with us tonight. The Community Roundtable's purpose is to provide a forum for the exchange of ideas among members, to strengthen the Madison Heights community, and enhance the success of community-oriented events through the coordinated efforts and participation of member groups, and to support the development and group growth through the education and experience gained in team efforts. Tonight's Meet the Candidate event will begin with the opportunity for each of the 2 mayoral and 5 council candidates to address the audience for 5 minutes. Lila Richards will serve as timekeeper and alert the speaker to a minute left, 30 seconds left, and finally when their time is up. After the presentation, City Manager Melissa Marsh will give an informational presentation on Proposal MH. And finally, the evening will wrap up with questions posed to our candidates in writing and read by Karen Berardi. Each candidate will have 1 minute to respond, and rebuttals and or additional comments will be made, or may be made with a 1 minute limit. And as you fill out your question cards, please remember to indicate at the top to whom you wish your question asked. For example, to all candidates or one candidate in particular. I'm going to invite each of the candidates to give their opening remarks at the podium. The questions will be addressed from the table. And so we'll start with the mayoral race, and working alphabetically, I invite Jeanette Eggert to come to the podium and give her remarks.
Let me first start by saying good afternoon to all. If you would like to know why did I get into this race, I would say to you, just to make a difference in the city that I do love. It is an honor to be here this evening. I stand before you as the first librarian, the first immigrant, the first African-American woman to seek this seat here in our city. I'm Jonna Eggert, and I want to be your next mayor for the city of Madison Heights. I was born in Monrovia, Liberia, West Africa. I'm the proud daughter of John and Minnie Wolu. I came to the United States in the late 80s as a refugee, fleeing from a massive civil war in Liberia. We lost many lives. America welcomed me and offered me an opportunity and a blessing to be before you today. And I'm very humble. I worked my way through college and earned a degree in political science from the University of Detroit Mercy. I am married to John Eggert. I have 2 beautiful children that have gone through the school system here in our beautiful city. My daughter right now is at U of M, hoping to be a medical doctor. She graduated from Lanphier. My son Johnny is currently at Simons Elementary. And I'm still signed up as a substitute teacher. I've worked the last 14 years, working with parents, with children, with families. So I understand the need of our community. very well. I ran in 2017 for the City Council. I want to be a mayor and a source of inspiration for many young women, many immigrant women, many African American women, and many women overall. I encounter so many young girls who are excited to know that I am running. And they too one day would like to be mayor or would like to run for city council. Madison Heights is on the road. This is a city alive with new energy, new people, new businesses, great food, music, and arts. Madison Heights has become a rallying city for creativity and innovation that is being heard across the nation. Young people are drawn to our city because this is a place where they can make a difference and be a part of a caring city. This is a great time to live in the city of Madison Heights. We have come such a long way that progress can be stopped just as quickly as it started, and it will set us back. I'm running for mayor to fix the mismanagement that is bleeding away the resources needed for our schools, basic services, public safety, initiative to reduce public poverty here in our city, mainly with our seniors on fixed income. I am running because I have the experience and passion to build a high-performing city government, and because I know I can unite the community in support of our children and for generations to come. I have 15-plus years of teaching and business experience. I'm from a family, my father and my uncles ran many of the government agencies in Liberia, so I was born into a family of educators and politicians. I lived it all my life, and coming to America, I have continued to do the same, in standing as an advocate on issues here in our city. I'm not a politician, however, looking to go up the food chain. I just want to make a difference in the city that I love. I'm running to make Madison Heights a magnet of opportunities for young people, for young women, for women of African descent, women in general, and for families. Most importantly, as I stand before you this evening, I hope my presence will be an inspiration for our young women, for our residents, that you too can participate in our government here in the city. To remain voiceless would be unnecessary. My mission in life is to share my story and inspiring hope and motivation and motivating others to build communities. I have known of Madison Heights. I love it. I love the people of Madison Heights. May my platform, which is to focus on community development, which include taking care of our senior citizens, our first responders, our public health and safety. I want to say thank you this evening. My time is up, and God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.
Thank you. Another round of applause for Jeanette Eggert. She really is an inspiration. Jeanette, whether as mayor or another capacity, you have a lot to give this city, and I hope we see more of you in the weeks and months and years to come. You're so valuable to us. Thank you. My name is Brian Hartwell. I've been the mayor of Madison Heights for 4 years. Before I served as mayor, I was a city council member for 8 years, which means I've been in this room for 12 years. I ran for city council to give a louder voice for the residents. When I first ran for mayor, none of the ideas were about what I wanted to accomplish. It was all about what the people of Madison Heights wanted to accomplish. And the best part of my job is campaign season, where I get access to thousands of families' homes, and they welcome me in, and they tell me the issues they're struggling with or what they want to see in their local government. The first project I handled as mayor actually came directly from the campaign trail. I'm sure you've experienced this. I know thousands of people in the city have. We used to go through a lot of power outages. It always seemed like if the wind would blow, the lights would go out in the city. So the very first project I handled as mayor is I convinced the city council to interrogate DTE. No other city, no other mayor had challenged DTE on their outdated equipment ever. And what happened is DTE responded to our PR attack, and they spent 18 months updating equipment and cutting tree branches. And the statistic, yeah, it's great. But there's data behind that. The data was, before City Council asked DTE to upgrade the equipment, there were 5,000 customers per year that would have 6 or more power outages. That number went down to 0 customers in Madison Heights would have 6 or more power outages in 1 year. And that was thanks to City Council. But that was an example of an idea that came from the campaign trail, which I found a policy, and City Council implemented that goal. Before I became a city councilman, I earned a Bachelor of Arts from Western Michigan University in International and Comparative Political Science and Economics. I lived for 1 year in Paris, France, and earned 2 language certificates. After undergraduate, I went to law school at the University of Detroit Mercy School of Law, and I earned a Juris Doctor degree, and I've been a licensed attorney for 11 years. I've used that law degree for good. I've had a business in Madison Heights for many years, and I've used that business to help the most vulnerable in our city. My passion as a lawyer is to help families who've been discriminated against, people who have disabilities or they face racial discrimination here in our city. I represent them in federal court. Oh, thanks. I'm also concerned about our low-income seniors in the city. So I've expanded a branch of my law office to be a free pro bono law clinic at our senior center, now known as the Active Adult Center, where I've helped hundreds of Madison Heights low-income families with basic legal needs, whether it's responding to a nasty creditor or simply getting through a probate case or maybe just holding their hand. I'm very proud of that, and I'm going to continue that whether I'm mayor or not. I'm always going to give. I truly believe in lawyers have to give back. I say this because my entire job as mayor is to give, give, give. And I want to inspire, and I've tried to inspire other people to give, 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 especially to those most vulnerable. Every fall, and I hope you'll sign up to help me this year, I recruit high school students to rake the leaves, the fall leaves, of disabled veterans and low-income seniors in our house. We get the list of low-income seniors from the senior center, and we'll do hundreds of doors every year. And it's probably the most touching thing I do, because some of the women and some of the men haven't spoken to their neighbors or anyone in weeks. And our interaction is a blessing to them. Please join me for that. And then also in the winter, I recruit high school volunteers to clean the ice and snow from our 200 bus stops across the city. And those are for families who don't have vehicles to drive to their work. I try to think outside of the box. I try to use the office of mayor for good and to help people. But of course, my job as mayor, the #1 job is for public safety. And so when I first became mayor, City Council and I had a discussion to restore undercover operations in the city to save the victims of human trafficking. And every year we've increased police staffing in the 4 years that I've been mayor. And I'm very proud that this year the city restored and opened the Special Investigations Unit with our own undercover detective bureau to save human trafficking victims. A lot of the credit, actually all the credit, goes to City Council and our police chief, Corey Haynes. If I'm elected mayor, the very first thing City Council and I will do is hire an additional dispatch officer, 2 police officers, and 3 additional firefighters, because the biggest concern I have as a public safety mayor is 70 times this year, no one has been able to send an ambulance to respond to our residents. That must change. Not fun projects, but public safety will be my #1 goal. Thank you. My time's up.
So we'll next turn to our candidates for City Council, starting with Kim Clark.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm excited to see that so many people turned out tonight for such an exciting event. I'm excited to be here with everyone on City Council and all of the candidates that are coming to make their voice heard. I'm running for City Council because it sounded like the next natural step. I'm a resident of Madison Heights. I've been here for 8 years. 3 years ago, my husband and I started our business out of our garage. When we decided to move to our garage, we came to the city to see, what do we got to do to get going. And the city held our hand every step of the way. Not only did they get us into our first building, which is 3,500 square feet, when we were ready to expand, the city went out of their way to get us into our second building, which is 11,000 square feet. My husband and I make a living out of using new and used materials to make big, beautiful pieces of furniture that change the way that spaces look. I'm excited to be able to be a part of reusing materials, to be able to recycle, and to be able to teach the residents of Madison Heights that you can make something from nothing, because that's what we've always had to do. Since I've started my business, I started getting involved in more volunteer efforts. I started the Madison Heights Beautification Project, which runs mostly online, but we do monthly cleanups around the city, and we organize and mobilize people to get out and do their own as well. Since that organization has began, it's actually turned into its own community forum online, where our residents come and they share their beautification efforts in their own yards. They teach about how to grow plants that are pollinators to help save our bees and our butterflies. They do plant exchanges, and they make plans to beautify the city. So it started to run on its own. I also run another organization called the One at a Time Community Response Team, where we have looked to cataloging and finding resources for our homeless community here in Madison Heights. I know you guys see a lot of homeless people in and around the city, but there are a team of homeless people in this city that are invisible, and they remain invisible because they don't have the resources to help, and they're afraid to show themselves as being homeless, for that they might receive the stigma that homeless people receive. So we're doing our best to draw attention to the issue in the city and help as many people as we can, even if that means one person at a time. Thank you. Last September, I joined the Madison Heights Arts Board. A few months later, I did become the chair. Since then, our team has excited the quality of life boards in the city of Madison Heights. I hate to say we put a fire under everybody's butts to get going, because we have gained our own fan base, we've gained our own following, and we've managed to mobilize a lot of volunteers because of it. We're able to bring arts and culture into the city and make it accessible to our residents instead of charging a lot of fees for big fairs and carnivals and things that we might not be able to afford. We've been able to do this without having any money from the city. We get all of our funding from our residents and from our fans and followers, and we're able to produce some pretty exciting events for the city to get involved in. I'm really proud of the work that I've done here in the city. It seemed like the next natural step for me to run for city council. I feel like I've done a lot of amazing things to mobilize people in the city to get involved and to get to volunteer and to do more, because we're working with less. I know that we are growing up from the recession and trying to get our feet back and start to have a lot more of the amenities that we had prior to the recession. And I've grown as a person to show that I am able to do that with basically nothing. So I know that if I'm able to sit on city council, I can work with the resources that we have and produce a lot of the change that our residents are looking for without costing too much money. What I really want to do is get more people involved. I have my ear to the ground. I'm very involved in the city forums on social media. I know that just around 3,000 people typically vote in a general election, but we're able to access over 10,000 people a week through our city forums, and I'm able to hear their concerns and bring those concerns to city council. Not only that, I feel like that I have the knack for bringing the city council voice to our people as well, in a way that they can communicate and understand. I appreciate you guys all coming here tonight and listening to what I have to say. I look forward to the rest of the race. Thank you.
Next, we'll hear from Robert Corbett.
Thank you very much. My name is Bob Corbett. I'm running for re-election to the City Council this fall. I'm a 20-year member of the council. I've been around since 1999. 1999 was the year. And I'm a lifelong resident of the city. My family moved in the summer of 1955. It was shortly after that that the vote was taken to create the city. Since then, I went to school here, I've lived here, I've worked in the neighborhoods, and worked in the city and grown up here. So I've seen Madisonites grow from when the majority of north of 12 Mile Road was basically just fields and empty, to now where we're talking about needing to redevelop areas that are north of that, whether it's off Whitcomb and John R. or down Stevenson. Certainly the 11-mile corridor with the redevelopment of the Downtown Authority. These are areas that need our attention. By way of background, I was educated at the University of Detroit, which is now University of Detroit Mercy, in economics. That was my major there. And I first got involved in the city in 1969. I was a member of the Drug Abuse Study Committee and the Madison House Recreation Committee. And then over the years, I served on any number of boards and commissions, which takes us up to when I was elected in 1999. During my term of office, there are a number of projects that are working in cooperation with the council. And I want to say something about the council. This community has been very blessed over the last 25, 30 years with some really gifted leaders, some very giving people. We're losing one this year, I'm afraid, with Mrs. Scott, Margene Scott. Really just a terrific person. But that quality of person who've been doing things over the years. And in the early part of my term, one of the first projects we took on was modifying the domestic violence ordinance, which attempted to make that stand out a little bit more for people who would be repeat offenders. What would typically happen is people would be a repeat abuser, but it would just go on the record as battery, which is no different than an argument over a dog or a bar fight or something. But we were able to get them identified as serial offenders. And that helped over the years with our counseling efforts and attempts to modify behavior. Moving on, I was active, too, with the council in getting the library updated and remodeled. We were able to do it for a relatively smaller amount of money. We didn't have to go out and get millions of dollars. We did it for several $1 million and did it inexpensively, and we did a good job, and it's still here today. I worked with the council, and we made some really tough decisions 10 years ago when we managed to save the community, literally, in any number of areas. We had some serious cutbacks that we had to make, but we did them, and we were successful. Former city manager Ben Myers always used to say, and I think there's some truth to it, he said it's a shame it took a recession to teach us how to get more efficient in how we did things. And we have been. We've been much better at it now. And the improvements we've made we've managed to keep our own fire department. We have a local fire department here. May not be the numbers we want in terms of staffing, but that's certainly a goal we're working on, and it's locally based. They're professional, they're locally based, they're with the community. Same thing with the police department. We managed to keep a police department. A number of communities had to go out and get the sheriff's department to provide services. We haven't had to do that here. Again, a locally committed base with professionals that work for you every day of the week. Moving forward, a couple of the projects that are important to me, and I'm grateful to say not only the Parks and Recreation Commission, but the council as a whole, has taken on the task of modifying and upgrading the quality of our play equipment in the parks. Very important to me that all the parks from now on will be completely ADA compliant in terms of the play equipment and so on that we have for the children. Yeah. A personal interest to me was to make sure that all the swing sets would be wheelchair accessible too. That's something not every community has. We have that here. So I think I'll stop there for a second, but I'm sure we'll be talking about some more issues as we go through the evening. Thank you very much.
Next, we'll hear from Sean Fleming.
All right, my name is Sean Fleming, and I've been a resident here in Madison Heights for 20 plus years myself. So I do have, just to start out, I do have a card, like a postcard here that everybody can get out in the lobby that has some more information about myself. My history is I've been working job-wise in the telecom industry for over 20 years. It started when I was 17 years old when I joined the military. My time in the military took me to several countries overseas, Japan, Germany, to name a few. And so while I was in the service, I was awarded 4 Army Achievement Medals and Armed Forces Expeditionary Medal for going to Bosnia. And also I received an honorable discharge. So prior to me going into the military, one of my very first jobs was that I worked for the City of Oak Park Recreational Department, where I overseen all of the recreational equipment and all the city baseball diamonds and everything else like that. It was a big job for being as a teenager. So moving forward, when I got out of the military, I started working at AT&T, where I work now, and but also my military background, I found the VFW. I became a member of the VFW, and eventually there was an issue where the post here in Madison Heights was going to kind of close up shop and lose its charter. So I became an officer of the VFW Post 9507. And from there, we did close the building eventually, but we were able to save the post, the charter organization, and merge it with another organization. So we now still operate as VFW 1407. That's highly important to me because we have a lot of organizations that do great. We have a lot of them here at the Community Roundtable. And as a city council member, I want to expand and get the community involved in these organizations that support the city so much and have them participate and give the services that they give to our great citizens. So I was also the commander of the VFW for about a year or so. And during my time, we did a lot of great things. I don't want to take credit for everybody at the VFW. I don't like doing those things. But as a post, we did a lot of things for veterans. We provided Thanksgiving dinner twice to veterans returning home. We had over 40 veterans that came to our post, and we gave them Thanksgiving dinner. We also had several veterans that we provided, we got them out of being homeless, got them a job, got their VA claims taken care of, and made sure that they were back into society after having PTSD from coming back from Afghanistan. So it's important that we help people, whether they're veterans or not veterans, with all their with homelessness or their poverty, because in the instance of the soldier that we saved and making sure that he was no longer homeless and he had a job, having PTSD, we saved one person that could have committed suicide. And that's important to me also, that we do that. So as City Council, I like to work with all the organizations in the community and work on programs that will have these relationships that will help out the citizens have have better services and stuff like that. So I do have a lot of things that are put on this card that I have. These are ideas. I'm not going to go over them now, but you can read all about them on my website, which is FlemingForMadison.com. And like everyone else here, I do want to work for the best of the community, and I want to be the best council person for the people. So thank you very much.
Next, we'll hear from Bob Gettings.
Thank you, everyone. I hope this next 5 minutes doesn't sound real corny, but I'm just going to say off the cuff and from the heart. My parents and I moved here in 1957 from Ferndale. We were there for a year and then 4 years prior in Detroit. I started kindergarten here at Madison Elementary and attended Wilkinson Junior High School and Madison High School. Back in 1967, Virginia Sahlberg was able to get some of us jobs for low-income families, and I started working for the Recreation Department, which became my love, I guess, over the last 5 decades. My first site I worked at was Edison Playground in '67, and I worked the next 35 summers in a row for the city, and I worked 27 years full-time. I'm just giving you some background about myself so you know who you're possibly voting for. I have a AA and a BS in Recreation from Wayne State and Macomb Community College. I was made a recreation supervisor in 1979, and then in '84, Jenny was brought on board, and she was given a lot of departments to handle, and I worked under her as a recreation coordinator. I've got a pretty good background on recreation. It is one of my loves, and I've worked with numerous kids over the last 50 years, which is hard to believe, but it's the truth. Some of the memories are just, you know, I still got kids I talk to that call me that you built relationships with, and he just watched them grow up, I guess, and it was great. Bob Corbett's younger brother was a quarterback on our middle school, Little League football team from '71 to '74. And again, I've coached football, basketball, baseball, track. I've helped out at the high school with volleyball and basketball. And I've just got a pretty good knowledge of sports, which made the rec job so exciting and fun. I've been on the school board for 8 years, got off in 2009, and became a councilman, was on for 4, lost by 10 votes, got booted out, got back on 4 years later, or 4 years earlier. I can say this from the heart, and I'm very proud of this. I've attended over 200 meetings, including study sessions, not missing one. I take this job very, very, very seriously. I get here a half hour to 45 minutes early, which I never did on any other job, but I feel I'm representing you guys, so I should be here and try to know what's going on. I love this city, I really do, and I know that sounds like a cliche or corny, but I've grown up here. I mean, I've lived here most of my life, and I continue to plan to live here, and if you guys keep me on, I will try to keep my record intact. 1 minute. It's a great job. You get to work with people. You get to be part of a team. That's probably one of the best things. We got one of the best city managers around with Melissa Marsh. We've got a council that is made up of diverse but good people. Margene Scott has taught us so much over the last 20 plus years. And even going back to Gary McGilvery being on there and all his years of service, it's all a team. It's not individual. Sure, we all have our passions, but we want to work as a team for the community and to try to make it a better place to live. And I think with everyone's help, we're doing that. 30 seconds, okay. Oh, stop. One last thing, we've got the best volunteers in the state. I mean, that's what makes this community great, is the volunteers. Thank you very much.
And next, we'll hear from our final candidate for City Council, Emily Rohrbach.
Good evening. It has been such a pleasure to listen to all of you speak, and I really have a lot of big shoes to fill now that you had some wonderful things from these other folks, but I appreciate your attention. My name is Emily Rohrbach. I'm running for City Council because I want Madison Heights to be a great place to raise a family. My husband and I moved to Madison Heights, and we fell in love with each other and with the city. We loved the great neighborhoods. We loved that the houses were solid yet affordable. We loved the location. It was close to our family and friends. It was right in the heart of Metro Detroit. We could get anywhere from here. And we loved the trees. The street we lived on had a beautiful canopy of trees, and it really enhanced the beauty and the energy efficiency in our home. We really liked that. And the neighbors. The first neighbor that I met when we moved to Madison Heights was a gentleman named Joe. Joe was 92 years old, and he had bought the house brand new, and he'd raised his own 5 children in that house. It was such an honor to get to know him, and he took us under his wing, and as new homeowners, we learned a lot from Joe. He came home several times, and he had done projects in our backyard, which was amazing. So we've been so lucky to be here in Madison Heights. But after about 12 years in our first home, our family had grown to include 3 children, Sadie, Eric, and Evan. They're now 8, and the twins are just turned 6 on Tuesday. And at that point, we were ready to move. So we started, okay, well, what are we going to do? All our options are on the table. We looked around all over Metro Detroit. We wanted to be near our friends and family still, but we considered all of our options. And we realized one thing, that we couldn't find everything we wanted in a home, in a community, anywhere else but in Madison Heights, because Madison Heights is special. So, what do I mean when I say that I want Madison Heights to be a great place to raise a family? I believe that local government has the most impact on our everyday lives. And I want to be an open and accessible representative for everyone. I want to listen to your concerns, take them to council, and figure out solutions. Everyone benefits when our community is strong. And I have learned over the years that having a community of people who care is the most important thing. It's the thread that stitches our lives together. So residents of all ages in our community have so much to contribute. And the city has the opportunity to make strategic choices that will benefit the city as a whole as well as individuals within our city. I want our city to be ready to take on challenges that lie ahead and plan for a future that is sustainable and has sustainable growth. That means that we need to be ensuring that we have an open and transparent budgeting process, that we support economic development in our city, both in the downtown development district, but throughout the city, particularly in those areas that have vacant properties that have sat vacant for way too long. I believe that we need to make it a priority to preserve and restore and make accessible our parks and green spaces. I sit on the Parks and Recreation Board, and I am so proud that we have gotten those ADA accessible swings, and those parks are all ADA accessible now. It is just such a joy to see that happen. I also want to make sure that we are continuing to replace trees throughout our city as they are lost. We want to make sure that we are ensuring a biodiversity of trees so that we avoid a future potential crisis in our neighborhoods, to make sure that a potential crisis in our neighborhoods that could be brought on by pests or illness or whatever it is that will bring a tree down. We need to make sure that we are taking care of those trees for a long-term sustainable future. And we also need to invest in our neighborhoods to make sure they're safe and code enforcement is effective. And we tackle head-on the issue of rats that plague a lot of our city. In short, I want to make Madison Heights a place where people want to buy homes, invest their businesses, a place where families will come, they will settle in, and they will stick around, a place where people want to lay roots, and businesses thrive and they give back to the community. So the question about why me? I have a lot of reasons, but I've got 30 seconds. So I have a master's degree in human resources training and development. I've worked most of my career with an organization that served homeless veterans and low-income seniors. I've worked as a community engagement specialist, and my responsibilities have been specifically in the realm of strategic planning. As we go forward with the city, I want to make sure that we are focused on creating a city that has sustainable growth and something that we can all be proud of. My name's Emily Rohrbach. I'm all out of time, but it would be an honor to serve the people of Madison Heights on City Council. Thank you.
Thank you all for those remarks. Melissa Marsh will now speak to us about Proposal MH.
Hi, I'm Melissa Marsh, the City Manager of Madison Heights, and I'll apologize in advance because, thank you. I'm taking about a 45-minute presentation and I've cut it down to 10, so I'm only going to hit on the highlights. I've gotten a lot of questions. I've given this presentation 7 times throughout the city, so I've really compiled all the questions that I've gotten, and I'm putting those at the end of that. But I'm not going to have time to go through those tonight, but I will be having another meeting next Thursday, so I'll have a slide on that at the end. So I've misplaced all of my notes, so I guess you'll figure out how much I know off the top of my head. On November the 5th, the City of Madison Heights will be going out for Proposal MH. That's actually a charter millage for the city. It will be moving our city-based charter from 10 mills to 16 mills, but it is not a 6 mil increase. It is a 3.368 mil increase. And the reason of that is because of the Headley rollback has adjusted down the original 10 mills to only 8.5, and we also are rolling in 4 special millages, 2 of which are about to expire, so we're going to be rolling those into this charter millage. And I will go right off the top and tell one of the main questions that I get all the time is, why not just a public safety millage? If this were a public safety millage, I would be all in. And that is one question that I want to address that isn't in my presentation. Public safety, as Brian Hartwell talked about, is a huge concern in the city, and it was a big conversation over the past year when City Council started working on our first strategic plan. And one of the major things are the number of calls that have gone up, and you'll see that a little bit later in the slide. But we really put a lot of thought into going out and just ask for a public safety millage. That's what we need, a public safety millage. But we need a lot more in this city. There are many cuts throughout the city that have happened during the recession, and we're only able to sustain what we currently have. We can't grow, we can't do anything else. And the library millage, which the residents voted in 2011, is expiring next year, as well as the millage restoration millage will be expiring next year. So had we gone out for a public safety millage, I would be standing before you today telling you all the reasons why you need to support a public safety millage, and then next year I would be right back out again knocking on your door telling you why you need to support a library millage and a millage restoration. So we really wanted to think about a comprehensive plan. What does the city need one time to fix it and start moving us forward? So that is what Proposal MH does. So this is a little bit about the strategic planning process that City Council started to undergo this past year. We identified 5 major areas. Public safety is the #1 concern of the residents as well as City Council. Infrastructure and capital assets. The city has not had money to invest in infrastructure. What does that mean? The City Hall building, the police building, the fire building, that type of infrastructure. And then capital assets are things such as the fire rescue, the police cars, those things. The dump trucks, no one ever really thinks about that being public safety, but you let it snow 10 inches and see what you think public safety is that day. These pieces of equipment have only been haphazardly put together because we haven't had the money to replace them and maintain them that we needed to during the recession. That was the #1 thing that we cut to save our budget. In addition to that, economic development, quality of life, and financial stability. So why don't we have the money to go ahead and set this strategic plan into motion today? I mean, after all, the economy's better and my house is worth a lot more money than it was in 2008, right? Well, not exactly. Even though the economy is better, it's not significantly better for the city. 61.5% of the city's revenue is property taxes paid by the residents and businesses throughout the city. During the recession, Madison Heights lost over 35% of the taxable value, which equaled a direct reduction in the general tax revenue by the city. When businesses and residential property values started dropping in 2008, the city taxable value dropped by the same amount. The city does have an excellent financial forecasting process, and we addressed this situation head-on by being proactive. But what did that mean? We cut personnel throughout the entire city. We cut programs, and we cut capital outlay and infrastructure expenses just to keep the city financially stable. When the economy started to recover and everybody saw their home values going up, everybody naturally thinks the city's tax value is going up as well, but that is not true. In the state, they have two laws, Proposal A and Headley, which force you to roll back your millage rates if your taxable values go up higher than the rate of inflation. And the rate of inflation is set by the state. So this current fiscal year is the highest that I have seen it in probably 12 years at 2.4%. Next year, it's already predicted to be 1.8 to 1.7% increase. The cost that the city has to pay are already more than that. Every one of our vendors are more expensive, our contracts are more expensive. So we are really struggling to recover. Due to the recession and the cap on this millage, the city will not return to the 2006 levels until the year 2038. And that's assuming that there are no more recessions or any economic downturns before 2038, and that's really unrealistic. So this slide, I'll just touch on this really briefly. This slide demonstrates exactly what I'm talking about. If you look in 2008, 1 mil of tax in the city raised $1.2 million. Now 1 mil of tax in the city only raises $820,000. So there's no mechanism for that line to go up more than the rate of the state set inflation. This slide highlights all of the millages that the city levies in the general fund. There are several things that I want to point out because it's really important to our overall conversation. First, the city levies 8 special general fund millages, and that does not include roads and debt. Second, the green bar that you see here is this base charter millage that we're talking about. This is the millage that the city was founded on, and it is used to fund day-to-day operations such as recreation, snow plowing, elections, accounting, streets, parks, maintenance. I could go on, but I got to keep this to 10 minutes. So in 2011, we were asked the voters to approve those 2 millages I just talked about. Proposal L, which is shown on this chart in yellow, is restricted for the library, and it really is the reason the library is still open today. The second millage is millage restoration. It's shown on this chart in brown, and it restored the general operations millage, which pays for all the general services I just outlined. Both of these millages will be expiring in 2020, and they are being rolled into this charter millage. So as you can see, the green bar is not growing. That green bar can only go up that amount of state rate of inflation. So as I said a few minutes ago, we do have a strong financial forecasting system that really allows us to be proactive. So when the general recession hit, we had a very aggressive gap reduction program, and from 2009 until 2014, we made over 200 reductions throughout the city. The most significant of these were cuts to personnel. These were reoccurring costs and made the most impact in the city. We couldn't have closed the gap without them. I've highlighted some of the most significant services on the screen. I actually have 12 pages of these cuts outlined on my desk, but I don't have the time to go through them all. We eliminated 47 full-time positions in addition to the 31 full-time positions that we had already eliminated since 1997. Our labor contracts all included negotiated concessions, including furlough days or unpaid days, wage reductions, elimination and reductions of pension benefits, health care for retirees, all insurance benefits, and leave time. And I mention that because I'm on Facebook a lot, and I get constantly comments about the rich benefits that the city employees have. That is not the case anymore. The employee benefits of the 80s and 90s are no more. They do not exist in local government, at least not in Madison Heights. So we contracted out entire departments of the city. So just to kind of illustrate what that looks like, the employee headcount here in 1997 was 227 employees. We are now down to 149. But the biggest impact of this has been to police, fire, and the Department of Public Service. Police personnel has dropped by 14 personnel. Firefighters are down by 10, from 40 firefighters to 30. The Department of Public Services are down by 12, from 34 to 22. We're never going to go back to these pre-recession levels. We're not even trying to go back to the pre-recession levels. One of the things that Bob Corbett mentioned was the recession really forced us to be more efficient, and we are more efficient in every single department in the city. We don't need to get back to the 1997 levels, but we can't sustain the service levels where we are today. So let me explain why we can't. This is just one example of our fire department. Our fire department, which I had just illustrated, is down 10 people. Since 2009, the calls have increased 41.9%. The majority of these are emergency service calls, emergency medical service calls, I should say. Staffing during this same period has gone down 16%. This year, we're on track to have almost 5,000 calls for service. Although this chart only shows fire runs, this is illustrative in police and the emergency dispatch as well. Every single EMS call here goes through emergency dispatch, which is at the police station. Over 70 times since January of this year, there have been no units eligible to respond when an emergency medical service call came in. That does not just mean Madison Heights. That means Madison Heights, surrounding mutual aid communities, as well as private ambulance. So when I very first started giving this presentation, that number was 42. It now has gone up. When I last checked, the number was 71. So I have not checked this week. But this is the number one problem in the city, and this millage specifically will, and you'll hear about it in another slide, go to fund 3 firefighters, 2 police officers, and 1 dispatch person. So why millage and what exactly is being proposed? As I've already explained, the actual millage language is to increase the city charter from 10 to 16 mills, and that is a permanent millage increase, although it will be rolled back through the Headley process, so it will continue to be reduced. But we are using the money to hire employees, so you don't want to hire employees and pair it up with a millage that's going to be expiring in 5 to 10 years. So this equates to 3.3687 mil increase to the taxpayers of Madison Heights. The amount levied can be less in any given year. The levy is set by City Council. So this slide shows exactly how it comes about. The millage restoration, which is expiring in 2020, will be replaced. It's 1.1592. It'll be replaced at the original Headley amount of 1.18. Vehicles and equipment, which currently is levied at 1/4 of a mil, will be replaced with 3/4 of a mil. Public safety is the most significant piece of this. It currently is levied at 1/4 of a mil. It will be levied at 2.5 mils. The library, which is expiring in 2020, will be replaced at 1 mil. And this does leave 0.57 of a mil for parks and recreation or other needs that City Council deems are necessary. And those needs are going to be determined through a master planning process that is going to be kicking off on October the 17th. So we'll be looking for citizen engagement and feedback in that. The first piece of that is a parks and recreation plan. So the residents will be setting the tone for what that money will be spent on. So what does this mean for the average homeowner? The average homeowner is around $129 a year. This is the average. There are some people that are more than this. There are some people that are less than this. If you want to know exactly what it means to you, feel free to call the city. There's a calculator on the website, or you can come to the meeting on Thursday. I'm having a town hall public information meeting September the 19th. It starts at 6 o'clock. I am having it at the Madison Place, which is on Horace Brown. I thought that would be a little bit more inviting maybe to some people that may be intimidated to come to City Hall. It is targeted towards families, but anybody is welcome to come. We'll be providing pizza, trying to do everything I can to get people to come out, having recreation staff there to offer some activities for children, because I really just want people to get the facts. I said I'm very active on Facebook. I post information on Facebook, and a lot of times the comments I get back, they're just not based in rationale. It's not factual information. So I just want people to get the facts, take the information back to their own homes, see can they afford it, does it fit in their budget, do they want to pay for that service, make the choice for themselves and get the facts. So I'm trying to make that as easy as possible. As I said, I've done like 7 of these meetings so far, so I must be talking faster than normal because I thought I would be out of time by now. I'll continue on through my presentation. So this kind of goes into more detail about how there were 2 special millages that are going to be expiring. I already said the library millage, and that is the only reason that the library remains open. Well, it was for 1 mill that the residents did pass, and then the millage restoration millage. There are 2 other millages that this is going to be replacing, an advanced life support millage and a vehicle millage, which are not expiring, but you will no longer be levied those as well. As I've already explained, we'll be hiring 2 additional staff. We'll be hiring 3 firefighters, 2 police officers, and 1 dispatch person. And this will also allow us to address our capital asset needs, so the police vehicles and the fire engines throughout the city, as well as infrastructure to the police station. And then quality of life, as I've already explained about the master plan, that will be a quite extensive process. That survey will be available either through town halls or online or through the mail almost the whole month of October. So we're really looking for community feedback for that to really determine what quality of life amenities do the residents want. We'll skip ahead a little. So that's my condensed version of my presentation. So, good night.
So we're going to turn to questions from the audience. If you haven't already done so, if you want to turn questions into Jackie Owens here and Eliza Lee, we will start fielding those from the candidates.
Okay, our first question is for everyone, and I will be passing the microphone down. What are your thoughts on ending the divisional attitudes between the north and south side of town, and how can we bridge our community together? Unfortunately, Emily, you get it real quick.
So get 1 minute. All right. Let's all be friends. No. I think, Madison Heights is, like I said, I think it's a great place to live, and we can bridge the divide that people perceive by making opportunities for residents to get together to meet each other. I have found, I've knocked hundreds and hundreds of doors and talked to hundreds of the residents just this year, and every time I do, when I get face-to-face with someone, that is a good interaction. Because when we talk to each other in person and don't spend our time bickering online, we like each other. And that's the kind of thing that we need to do more of. More opportunities for the people of the city to get together, to look each other in the eye and say, "Hi, neighbor, I love you." And let's love our neighbors and be better neighbors to each other. I think if we can do that, if we can provide those opportunities, we're going to be a better place all over the place.
Great answer. How do we end the divisional attitudes? Well, I've been the first South End mayor in several generations. I've spent most of my life as a resident of the South End of the city. And it's a very special place for me. First, I should recognize my father, Ray Hartwell, and my wife, Ling Yu. My father and my parents are Madison High School grads, and it's a very special place in my family's heart. When I became mayor, the South End was very important to my policies. I heard from people that they thought City Hall neglects the South End, and therefore, I authored and called for a 20-year downtown plan. We had a downtown for the last 2 decades, but you didn't know it. So when I became mayor, I called for a town hall, and we redeveloped, and we're in the process of redeveloping downtown Madison Heights. In the first year, we've had great success. We've had a microbrewery come in, we've had a barbecue joint, we've had an artist space, and every year, you're going to see progress in the south end of our city. But also, our blight control measures are specifically to clean up the south end. We've had a much more aggressive blight control and code enforcement policy, specifically to go after the repeat actors, and I'm very proud of that. I don't think there's a divisional, but maybe I'm just Pollyannish. But my goal as mayor will be to continue finding opportunities to clean up every corner of our city, to bring businesses and jobs to every neighborhood in Madison Heights.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just throw a couple of quick facts at you guys because I'm a facts person, I guess, sometimes. Lanphier School District were giving away mugs about 20 years ago, and it was called a sesquicentennial mug. I didn't even know what the word meant, but it was 150 years old at that point. Now they're around 170, 175. That's the school district and the borders that take care of that school district. Madison, I think, is 1928 or so. So you've got two well-established school districts that have been around forever. I don't know if we'll ever live to see the two join. I think it would be a fabulous idea because all the people in this city, be it North End or South End, are all good people. And I think if we could ever merge that, I would hate for people to lose their jobs. We couldn't have two superintendents, but I still got time. Okay, no, I'm done. Okay, I'll pass it on. Thank you.
Yeah, so I agree with Mr. Gettings here that that we maybe merging the schools would be a good idea. I think that the merging of the schools would bring the community more together. The reason being, my child goes to Ferndale, and I grew up in Ferndale area, and you could tell that the community is more together there. Versus here where, you go online and you see people debating about the south side, the north side, and it's really, if you're an outsider moving in, you see this as like, I don't want to live there, and it sounds very, very negative. I personally would like to see more events happening, and maybe possibly right there in the middle of the downtown area like Ferndale has. One thing that I'd like to see maybe is the Asian festival or the Mexican festival take a place right there in the middle of downtown area, closing out the streets and stuff like that. But also maybe a campaign. We have the fireworks going on, and utilizing the streets and John R. to publicize and stuff would be a great idea also.
We did one. Let me join the councilman and indicate that I agree with you. Having worked both districts and having worked with families and currently working with a healthcare mega industry in Hazel Park that is servicing a lot of our residents from the south side and from our area as well. The one thing they always say to me is why we're so divided in terms of our educational system. Such a small city, to have two school boards makes no sense whatsoever. It's a waste of money, waste of taxpayer dollars, waste of our taxes. And many of our students, both districts would like to see a consolidation. They would like to see it in their lifetime, and they would like to get involved. Because I strongly believe in doing so, our city will be united. Our people will come together. They will work together. They will come to the council meetings. We will not have empty seats in the house. I strongly believe those on the south side have a voice. They want to be included. And I look forward to the time in which the district is merging and the school district becomes one. Thank you.
Great when you're number 6. There's not much left to be said in some respects. But I do want to emphasize a couple of things that were said. I think the code enforcement was an aggressive plan that the council took up over the last couple of years. It was earmarked especially towards non-owner occupants, rental houses. Where owners had gotten a little sloppy in their maintenance and so on. That was key. That is key to property values. It's key to the security and the safety of the neighborhood. I think you meant the 30-second one, not... Anyway, I think the other thing, too, was, and we did it a couple of times, for example, with the DDA forum, I like the idea of having meetings also throughout the city, whether it's the north, the south, the east, or west. I understand we have some restrictions as a governmental body. We got to have cameras and stuff watching what we're doing. But there's no reason that we can't, go, for example, to one of the junior highs, have a meeting there. We can do that. That's perfectly legitimate. So good luck. You're 7.
I'm going to be the black sheep of the family here, and I'm actually going to say, when I first moved here to Madison Heights, we moved to the north side. We rented for 5 years, and then we purchased our home on the south side. I know, as a south side resident, that there is a divide from the south side to the north side. I have a lot of friends on the south side. I've made a lot in the past few years. I'd like to bring recognition to some of those residents that are doing such great things for our community, like Donna Mitchell, who's back here. She serves majority of the underserved in our community, and she doesn't get enough recognition for it, so I want to make sure that she gets that. But the Arts Board is already working hard to make sure that we plan some of our accessible events in both the north side as well as the south side, so that all of our residents can experience some of the good things that we're doing in our city.
Our next question is based on websites and informational research. Most individuals on this panel are pushing for the downtown district and green spaces. We are not Royal Oak or Ferndale. Why such a big push to adopt their identity rather than to establish and keep our own? Ma'am.
So I'm not sure, actually, the city is pushing to be like Royal Oak or Ferndale. I think we're uniquely Madison Heights. The downtown development area is being organized not only by city council, but they're listening to a lot of members in the city. My husband and I brought a really unique business to the city, and since then we've brought 3 additional businesses into the city that operate out of our building. I plan to be a big part of economic development, whether I sit on city council or not. I want to see that area grow. I want to see it benefit the people in our city already that have small business ideas that want to bring them to the city. And I want to work to push with the landlords in the downtown area to push incentives to get people to work out of these buildings to get a boost up so we can start benefiting from the growth that's coming in from the other cities. I don't think we're trying to be like Royal Oak or Hazel Park or Ferndale. I think we're going to be just like Madison Heights.
About 3 years ago, I spoke at a city council meeting specifically on point, and that was exactly what I said, was that Madison Heights is not Ferndale. It's not Royal Oak. We have our own unique character. We don't have a downtown in the same traditional sense, for example, that Royal Oak does. No other reason, it's linear. It goes 2 directions, depending on how you want to look at it. I personally don't think it goes far enough, but that's not the point. We've got parking, and we do have some available property. 2 quick points I want to make about that. You can go to I think it's on my Facebook page, Council, and you can see it's about a 3-year-old video, but exactly the point I talked on. And the other thing is we have to be careful in terms of our development, whether it's restaurants or bars or whatever, not to make a mistake that Royal Oak is being caught in right now. They're short of parking, and it's not an accident. The entire downtown concept over the last 15, 20 years has been directed towards attracting, the millennials. Well, millennials are doing something that their parents did and their grandparents did. They're getting married, they're settling down and having kids. That requires parking. If you've ever seen anybody moving kids around, it's like moving an army. So the parking has got to be there.
And let me join in saying that Madison Heights is truly unique, and our city layout is beautiful. If you do take a look at what we currently have as our downtown, with the little sign you can barely see right now, if we're including the south side and the north end, I can see wherein we cannot be as Royal Oak because we're a more open space. So if we do indicate parking and we encourage the current businesses to get involved, to work with the city council, work with the city government, we can have greater improvement in terms of our downtown, and we can have the north and the south side come together and work together. So at no point I don't think that our city will become as other, because we are very unique. We have a lot of smart retirees who will volunteer to help. A lot of businesses are willing to merge. I've gone door to door, and many businesses are looking forward to getting involved with the city, and I do hope that the city council reach out to them and involve them in our planning of the development of the downtown.
Yeah, the downtown area does have, is not going to be like Royal Oak. I don't see it to be like that either. What I do see it becoming is more of a destination location almost, where we have places like the brewery that has just come up. I do know there are a lot of beer aficionados of sorts that they come there, and from Warren and maybe St. Clair Shores or even further than that to visit our brewery. And it's those kind of businesses that will bring people to our city. But also we need to have some type of identification of who we are when we have things going on, whether it be the Memorial Day Parade, which I seen this year we had a couple more businesses that participated in the event that they did before than we had before, and getting them involved into our city events will also attract more people to come to our city, I believe. So the more things that we do, the more people will come and think that we're doing something.
Real quick, folks, I think the downtown development folks are doing a good job. It's a tough bridge to cross in that we don't have all that land, and the parking, like Mr. Corbett brought up, is kind of sparse. But the clock tower was a good start, and I think it's starting to get developed down there, the brewery and things like that. And if we can keep moving that all the different ways, I believe it only comes up to Gardenia and then goes south to 10. So I think they're doing a great job, because it's a tough way to go to, you know, reestablish everything and redevelop it, but it's a long process, and I think the city's doing a great job. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, downtown Madison Heights will be uniquely ours, and our plan is 100% market-based. It's 100% based on the changing demographics of our city. If you think of how old Madison Heights is, about 65 years old, the founding fathers and mothers of Madison Heights are, what, in their 90s and their 80s? And a lot of them live south of 11 Mile. So we need to make 11 Mile a more walkable district. We need to attract businesses so people like my 90-year-old grandma doesn't have to move into a home or just die. She can age in place, walk to a doctor, a pharmacy, a nice restaurant. But also, as our demographics do change, we are a lot more affordable than Royal Oak, Ferndale, and even some houses in Hazel Park. So we're getting a lot of young families moving into the 11 Mile neighborhood. It's simply market-based. And so Madison Heights has put its foot down, and we're trying to control some of the development. We stopped a 20-pump gas station at the corner of 11 and John R., and guess what? We're probably going to have a condo tower there with mixed-income housing. We also stopped an unnecessary car wash where the Boodles restaurant is, and you know what? We'll probably continue to have retail and dining there. There has to be some sort of control from the city, but it's based on the market, it's based on the people that live here, our ideas, our wishes.
So there are two parts to that question, one about green spaces and the other about the downtown. We've rehashed a lot of downtown, and I agree with a lot of what's been said here. But as far as green spaces go, one of the things that's real important to me. Because I'm a mother and I want Madison Heights to be a great place to raise a family, that's one of the things that is most important to a family. When they look for a place to live, they want parks to go to. They want parks that are accessible and well-maintained. And keeping those at the forefront of our planning for this is really important. The other thing about trees and green spaces is that children who grow up with trees and green spaces close to their home in close proximity with access to that are healthier and more successful throughout their entire lives, based on research, and that's why it's important to me. It's something that we need to do for our children for the future.
This question is for everyone. What's your position on marijuana in the city, medical and recreational?
I get to do this one first, too. I know that this is a very contentious issue for a lot of people. And what I also know is that it's not going to be a one-size-fits-all answer, and it's not going to be able to be answered in 1 minute time frame. But I'll try. I think I have 30 seconds now, so I'm going to try. I think that it is important for us, as far as economic development goes, to be open to opportunities as they arise. We need to look at each one of those opportunities and evaluate them. How are they going to affect the city? How are they going to return investment to the city, and how are they going to help the people of this city? I believe that the medical marijuana facilities that have been proposed and the licenses that have been granted, those are going to give back to us in a big way. They're going to provide for better trees, better green spaces, more parks and rec services. I think those things are really good for our city. I have one last thing to say about it, is that my 95-year-old aunt-in-law, not 95, 85-year-old aunt-in-law, she came to me years ago and asked, where can I find some marijuana? Because she has fibromyalgia. She needed help. And I said, why are you asking me? And then you shouldn't have to go look in a back alley to try and find your medicine.
I support big industrial medical marijuana in the city of Madison Heights. And let's get real, marijuana operators have been in our city for decades. Most of them grow marijuana in our houses. That's disgusting. It's next to our families. It smells on a hot day when they're harvesting. I think it needs to be out of the neighborhoods. So we designed an ordinance specifically to kill the black market of marijuana in Madison Heights. And so we've issued 2 licenses to clean up our most blighted industrial buildings in the city. Guess what? Actually, I have a slide. The most dangerous condemned building in the city of Madison Heights was the Fairlanes Bowling Center on Stevenson Highway. It'll now be an $18 million new construction project, hiring hundreds of people. This is progress for the city of Madison Heights. And also, when you regulate it, you profit from it. Madison Heights will benefit from the excise tax, will benefit from the jobs. Patients near us will benefit from the therapeutic reasons. It's not my position to lecture a patient who thinks that this will help them. I fully support this from a financial perspective and a public safety perspective. I'm very proud that we have these 2 businesses here.
Tough topic to talk about. I think Mr. Kimball, the school board president from Madison, brought up a good point where they were throwing money at the schools, I believe, and I don't know if that's such a great idea. This is very controversial, you guys. We all know that. It's still on the books in the federal government. It's still against the law, but it's not being enforced. So the medical, I think I can live with. Again, I've been with kids the last 50 years. I don't think it's a great idea to have it close to schools. If we do end up picking 2 buildings to sell it for recreational, which we haven't done yet, we'll see what happens. But I think just waiting a few months to decide might not be a bad idea, and we'll try to make the right decision. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not against the marijuana at all, but I'm not really a giant proponent either. I've never been involved with marijuana, but I do see what the business could bring for us. The thing is that I think we really just don't know at this point in time. They're supposed to be having a 10% tax on the marijuana sales on top of the regular sales tax. That goes into a fund, and then that fund would trickle down from the state, whatever's left over from them using it for other projects, and then come to the city and the county. And so there's no way to tell if there's going to be this big giant windfall of money from the marijuana establishments that are coming to the city. So I wish, and I'm hoping that it's going to be good for us, but I don't think that we should be, putting everything. Like we're going to build a budget around the sale of marijuana. So.
It's a very, very touchy subject. You have many people in support and many against across the city. It needs to be studied, make sure that it's feasible for this city, this time, and into our future. We have children, we have families. We talk mostly about public safety. We are to be concerned. I do believe that the banks do not allow many of these businesses to open accounts. And when you do take a look at that, that means they're going to be keeping cash on site. Would it draw criminals more to our city? Is it something that our resident truly needs at this time? We must study the issue so it can go both ways. But I prefer to say, let's study, let's understand, let's do a research. There are many people, and I work currently in the medical field. I work with doctors. I work with cancer patients, Alzheimer patients. So what we have done is to study their issue and be able to address it medically. So I hope that our city and our city government take the time to study the issue correctly before you enforce it and we have bigger problems. Thank you.
If there's anybody in the city who's talked more about this issue, it's me, and frankly, I'm getting tired of hearing my own voice on some of this. My view is, in terms of we've approved and I've supported 2 medical marijuana sites. My vote was based on a sense of compassion, on what I thought was making accessible medicine potentially for our residents so they wouldn't have to go to Pontiac or Southfield or Detroit, that they could get it within a short view. But that's not really what the big issue here tonight is. The big issue, which hasn't been addressed yet, is are we going to expand that? And as far as anticipating that issue, I'm not really interested in getting driven into the arms of big business on this one. I mean, all you got to do is just look at the cigarette companies, for God's sakes, and see where the morals are on this thing. It's fine if you want to use it for medicine. If you're able to get relief from it, that's fine. It isn't my place to say anything, and the law protects you, as a matter of fact. But as far as expansion beyond that, I just think that this is just another case of 2019, here comes big business to pat you on the back, take your wallet, and not care what happens to you after that. So.
So I didn't know we could bring slides, so I'm completely unprepared. I just want to say that City Council is supposed to represent all of the voters. We're supposed to be each individually unique, bring our own skills to the table, but as a whole, we're supposed to represent the voters. We had an election for medical marijuana. 2/3 of the city voted in favor of it. We had another election for recreational marijuana. 2/3 of the city voted in favor of it. I am going to represent the will of the people on this issue, and I am actually very excited and very proud of the efforts that City Council has gone through so far to not only make sure that it's regulated, but to make sure that the city benefits from it. The medical industry has a point system that they have to reach in order to be able to get that license to run that building, and part of it is their service to the community. I'm excited to get their service to the community. I'm excited for the industry to come to the city and for our citizens to benefit from it, and I'm excited for 2/3 of our voters to finally be represented as a choice that they made for the city.
I have a question here for Ms. Eggert. It's in your speech, you said something about squandered money. What areas do you feel that this is happening?
What I meant to say, it is always the best key, best policy of every city government, city council, to look into ways, the best ways that you utilize the taxpayer dollars in the city. And when I do see, years later, I've lived in the city for 20 years, raised 2 beautiful children. And as I drive through the city and see that we're missing a downtown, that we're missing the basic amenities in our school district in Madison schools. I've been in a classroom where I'm soaking in my suit, and it's hot. The early childhood center, I've been in a classroom with preschoolers, and we have to open the window to have a portable air conditioning system. I'm from Africa, and I've never seen that. It shocked me over the years. So I'm hoping when I talk about the funding, how we utilize our dollars, that we're using it first on education, public safety. Our seniors that are on fixed income, I see them every day. Many of them I line up at some of the events that I do host, Salvation Army. You'll be shocked to know. And they're afraid to come forward to our city government to ask for help because they do have pride. So that's what I'm talking about, utilizing our funds wisely. Thank you.
This question is from the audience. As a baby boomer, what are your plans and ideas to keep housing affordable to seniors and increase our quality of life? Oh, yeah, that's everybody.
Well, one of the issues that I wanted to address right away was in bringing new business to the downtown development area was to find a way to utilize the resources that we have here in the city to bring small businesses out of their garage to open in these areas so that the city can benefit from the traffic that's coming in from the surrounding downtown areas. If we're able to do that, our residents can save money on property taxes by becoming exempt from them by running a business in the city. Our tax values will stay down and our residents will be able to stay in their homes. Everybody will benefit from bringing new business in the city and from our residents themselves coming up out of their garages and moving into these buildings. I also know that there are condos of mixed income housing that are being built up on DeQuinder, and they're thinking of building some in the downtown area. And I think that that is going to bring in some secure housing for not only our seniors, but for some of our lower income residents as well.
This is something, as many of you may know, I'm an associate broker working here in the area, so this is something that's been of concern to me for 40-some years now. But in many respects, keeping the property values for seniors is not a lot different than keeping the property values for the young people. Many of the same concepts work. Most importantly, for example, are city services. I mean, if you're over the age of 40 or 30, you certainly remember one of the reputations of Madison Heights was superior services, especially come winter. We used to joke that the first snowflake would fall, we think the guys were jumping in the trucks and heading down the road. That's the kind of a reputation that works across all boundaries, works across all ages. But beyond that, you do have to have a certain diversity in what you're serving. A DDA, restaurants and so on that would attract young, but also we have to maintain a strong active adult program here, which we have not only with the senior center, but we do have plans which may come up later tonight for redeveloping right in this area a new site for seniors, and hopefully we'll get to that later. Your turn.
All right, so in terms of making sure that we can maintain our residents in the city, the younger people, younger families, seniors, making sure that they can afford their taxes. I would say that when we improve our city services, when we improve in terms of making sure we have businesses that are engaged, that are hiring, many of our seniors do want to work still, however. You'll be surprised. Many are retired, but they want to feel useful. They want to be involved, and many of the younger families coming in wants to have jobs. I know that many of the students that have graduated could not even afford to go to college, but they are working in the city and going to local community colleges. So if we do have services and businesses that is available to hire, our city looks good, our services are excellent, our trash collection or cleaning up the streets. When you have the cleaning truck comes before the garbages are picked up and you have debris all over the city, we will not attract the best businesses or the best people. So in terms of making sure that we have our city in order, that its services are excellent, it will make a big difference. Thank you.
Can we read the question one more time? I'm sorry. Okay, all right. So as far as boomers, keeping the housing for them, well, my next door neighbor, one of them owns a house and rents it out, and then the other side, I have a neighbor that just moved from Ferndale, and they're both working. Brand new baby on one side, and the other two are they have a child, but then the renters also have they're really young. They're maybe in their mid-20s, and what I noticed is that they moved here because it was really affordable for them. So instead of paying $500,000 for a house in Royal Oak, they're not paying that much here. So I think I'm happy that the housing boom of knocking things down and building things to huge is not happening here, making it more of a bedroom community of sorts. And I think that makes a play that we don't have, that we keep ordinances keeping that from happening. Plus also, I have an idea of maybe putting a cap on not raising senior citizens' a tax from the city based on that. So if their assessment goes up, they're capped off once they get Social Security. That's just an idea of mine. I don't know how feasible it is.
Just going back a few years to the 70s when the Sahlberg and those towers were built on DeQuinder, I think that was good foresight, and that has helped out immensely. Now with the boomers coming in, and we have a new place going up on DeQuinder, which was partially approved a few weeks ago, which I think will help housing for folks there. Looks like a beautiful facility. We have New Horizons and other spots here in the city that help the seniors. We have a great adult activity center, and I think they do a good job. So I think that we're doing as much as we can right now, but this is county, state, federal. You have a lot of different agencies involved in housing, and again, I think time will tell, but I think we've addressed some of that. Thank you very much.
The question was about housing options and quality of life for the boomers. You know, guess what? Statistically, as we age, we're more prone to illness. And I don't know if you caught what City Manager Melissa Marsh and I said earlier, but 70 times this year, someone in Madison Heights called 911 and we did not have a car to send to them. Can you imagine that? That's about twice a week. We have no one to respond to 911 calls. Quality of life starts with saving your life. So it's very important that we increase the staffing in our public safety departments because we need people to drive the trucks to save your life. As the councilman said, we are also building luxury senior housing on DeQuinder. So as people downsize from their 1,500 square foot ranches, like my grandmother, she shouldn't be in that house walking up and down in the basement all the time. So we need more housing options here. And we also need to attract businesses that boomers and other people want. More interesting retail, more interesting dining, not just all oil shops and bum shops. And guess what? My parents are boomers. Is that right? Can I say that? Okay. And guess what? Boomers don't like to be called seniors. So we changed the name of our senior center to the Active Adult Center and lowered the age so it's more welcoming to people of all generations. Thank you.
I think it is a testament to the great community of Madison Heights that we have so many people who have stayed here for 50, 60, 70 years. It's a great community to live in, and we should make sure we keep it that way. My parents are boomers. They're both retired. They live here in Madison Heights, and they're on fixed income. So I know how important it is for them to be able to stay in their home, age in place, as they say, and make sure that they can continue to be there as long as it's safe. And I think, like many of the people have said, making sure that our city services are the way that they are, but also making sure that we're connecting the people who need it to services that are available through like Oakland County, through the state of Michigan, to update people's homes, put in ramps or whatever kind of accessibility needs that they have. There are programs out there, making sure that we connect people to those programs so that they can stay in their homes for as long as they safely can and as long as they want to.
This question is, what is the condition of the current and future city budget? Do you want to? Okay.
The condition of the city budget. The recession wiped out 1/3 of our budget. Could you imagine if 1/3 of your household income was cut? And guess what? During that time, the demand for services has increased. So not only do we have less money, but we have more services. And what happened, to save money and to cut all waste, we pushed out all of our wise and experienced veterans in every department. And we also are working to death some of our top talent. Our brightest employees are leaving to the private sector for better pay, better benefits, and better work-life balance. So the only way that we can continue professional, full-time public safety in Madison Heights is if we adopt the millage. And all we're saying is go back to the taxes you were paying in 2010. If you could afford the taxes a decade ago, that's all we're asking you to do. Go back 10 years, that's the tax bill we'd like from you. And in that case, we'll hire the dispatch officer, the police officers, and the firefighters. It's the most important thing for the future of this budget is the millage.
So the current condition of the budget, I think Brian really laid it out pretty well, is that it's not enough to meet our needs, right? So I know as an individual who had to cut back from a 2-income family to a 1-income family when I decided to stay at home for 5 years with my children, that hurts. It hurts a lot. You have to cut back every essentials, every service that isn't keeping food on the table, keeping the roof over your head. And that's what we've done as a city. We need to make sure that our future is a lot more stable, because that is not sustainable. I eventually went back to work, and it makes our lives a whole lot easier. And the same is going to be true for the city. When we're able to afford to move forward, to make progress as the city of progress, that's what we need to be able to do. So I hope that people do support this proposal MH as well.
I agree with my two folks right next to me here. I think the most important thing to know is that we're spending your money. So it's your money that we work with and try to supervise. So it's essential that you guys vote either for or against it. We work for you guys. We think this is a good idea, this ballot proposal. But the most important thing is you guys have the final say. It's your money, and how we spend it is in your hands. So please read up on this proposal. I think it's a great idea, but I'm only one of many. And we put it on the ballot so that you guys could decide. Thank you.
Yeah, with the proposal, I agree that we're in desolate needs of funding here. I do know that the city manager, she is looking for funds from everywhere, and she seems to be very conservative in spending and trying to get the most for our tax dollars, and I think that's really important to make sure that we continue on that path. But I do know that we're going to be capped off at 16 mills, and we're not we're just not maintaining, but we're just at this one level. And if anything else comes at us, we might need more. And so really it becomes an issue of what are you willing to pay for what you want, and whether it be a couple $100s or more a year. And that's why I also like to see maybe help with the seniors and working with communities, organizations, so that we can not use the city for some things and help get those 501c3s out there helping us out to provide services for the citizens.
The one thing that I do like and do love this evening is the fact that the city manager indicated that the decision is actually in the hands of the voters, that no one on the panel can decide that. So I love that. And she is listening and wanting to hear more from the residents. So I would encourage all of our residents to reach out, participate. Let your voice be known. Let your desire be known. Do not feel that you must do something you do not want to do. So I would encourage our residents to make sure that November 5th, that they do let the city know where they stand. I do know that the issue of making sure we have first responders ready to take calls, emergency calls. I cannot imagine having to call for help and no one show up. Especially I was seeing some fixed income and those that I truly do already know in the city who need medical care, strong medical care. So I would encourage, like I say, the city, encourage our residents, including myself, my husband and I, we will be voting. So this is dear to our hearts, so make the right decision and let the city government work for you and not the other way around. Thank you.
The mayor made a comment a minute ago. If you could afford the rate from a few years ago, it wouldn't be that much more now. That's my concern with this millage, is that people are not making what they made 10 years ago. Many people out there are working 2-3 jobs just to make the same level of funding. UAW guys that I used to know were making $45, $50 an hour in the plant. They're making half that now, and so is their family. Their wives are having to work. So everything that the manager said this evening is true. We are faced with many issues in terms of budget. We have made progress, so let's not overlook the fact we have added first responders every year over the last several years. So we have responded, we have found the cuts, and we have found the ways to do it. But I'm just very reluctant to go back to the taxpayers and to place this community at a situation where it's going to be one of the higher millages in the county in terms of the permanent millage. And it's baked in forever. It's 16 mills baked into the budget or baked into the millage forever. So I'm not, at this point, I'm not a fan of that much additional taxes.
So in sitting in a couple of meetings with Melissa Marsh and coming to some of the educational opportunities she's had to give us about the millage, as well as attending the Citizens Academy that Madison Heights provided to show you what all the city services have to offer, I've learned that we took a big hit in the recession, and we're starting to grow a little bit, but not a lot. And there's a lot of things that we need in the city, like to hire more people for code enforcement so that they can get out there and handle the blight and resolve the issues that everyone is complaining about. I learned that the civil services need repair. We need roof repairs to our police station. The fire department needs help too, and they want to adopt this millage to help pay for it, and I think that's great. But I've been to a lot of city council meetings since March, almost every single one of them, and one of the things I learned is that a lot of stuff that gets through is coming from the lowest bidder. And as a contractor that bases my whole entire career off of building stuff to last so that people aren't disappointed with it in the future, I'm looking to hold city council accountable when I get there. I'm looking to hold them accountable to make sure that we're building quality services with the money that you're going to give them by passing this proposal, so that we're not looking at broken sidewalks and trash all over the streets for years to come.
This is a question for Bob Corbett. Are you going to continue your office hours at the library on Fridays? We appreciate you making yourself accessible this way, and you should let more people know about it.
If she was still alive, I'd say my mom wrote that question. Yes, I do. I do have office hours every Friday, 1 to 3 at the library. Anybody can come in and talk with us. I know other members of the council also keep contact with residents in a variety of ways. And thank you. Mom, wherever you are. So.
This question is for the challengers, and a couple of you have answered. You've answered this already. How many council meetings have you attended in the last 5 years? You've answered.
So I've missed 3 city council meetings since the beginning of March of this year, and it was because my husband and I were working 17-hour days those days, so I wasn't able to make them. But I've learned a lot, not only about the language that's shared and the pageantry that you guys have here, but I've learned a lot about what the city is doing for our citizens. And when I'm at these meetings, I share what I learn on my Facebook page and in the social media groups that the city has, and I take that information back from the residents and I share it in my conversations that I have with city council or the city manager or even other challengers here for city council. There's a lot of conversation going on, and a lot of residents feel like they're not being listened to. So I'm making it a point to show them that I am listening to them by having these conversations with them on a daily basis.
All right. Thank you. I have attended many of our city council meetings, and I've spoken on many issues of importance when it comes to our police department as well. My husband has been in law enforcement for many, many years. He currently still works with a local hospital. And I do know the importance of making sure that we do participate in issues. Because when we as residents do not participate in issues, it gets decided for us. And we see what happens when that happens. So in terms of making sure that I'm reading up on the issues, many of you may not come in person, but I do know a lot of our residents do watch the live feed. They do read the local CNG newspaper, so they are aware of things that are happening here in the city, and I do the same as well. And I will always, regardless of the end result of our election, I will always be a voice. I will always participate with our education, with our council. I will be here to lend my voice, my hands where it is necessary. There have been an issue recently here in the city in which we had a dog issue. I was participant, and I did advocate on their issue. And I'm glad to see many of the women are here today on the causes that they fought for. So I will promise our resident that I will be engaged, and I will always listen with open ears. Thank you.
Well, I think it's good to participate in all of the city council meetings and try to attend them. I have not been to a lot of them. Most recently, I have been to quite a few. But also, I do go online and watch them at home. They're available to, they're live, but they're also there on YouTube. You can watch them. I guess you could just blow through them and watch them all, like, in a day, maybe, I don't know. But anyways, it's important also to read the agenda items. That's really important stuff. Has a lot of information of what's going on, so you can kind of get an understanding of what the meeting that they're talking about and all the backstory of what's happening. And I read through those, and so you can learn more about the decisions and the issues that the council has to deal with. And so that's what I do.
So up until 2017, I hadn't done much in the city of Madison Heights besides vote and have lots of opinions. So I didn't attend city council meetings. After that, when I decided to run and started to really get involved, I started attending quite often. I can't come to every one because I've got 3 small kids and a husband who works some evenings, so sometimes I watch them online, which is a great thing. It's a great thing. And I also have learned over the years that reading minutes is actually really fascinating, and I'm a total nerd for it. But I love to do that, so reading the minutes from the meetings as well. So I haven't been to every single meeting, 'cause hat tip over there, but I've been to a lot of them, and I always watch them online.
What city boards and commissions have you served on, and for how long? I guess this is for everybody.
I am currently on the Madison Heights Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. I've been on that board since, I'm going to say, a year and a half, let's say. I think I got appointed in the middle of at the end of 2017 or early 2018. I don't really remember the exact date. I'm also on a board of directors for an organization called Relief Michigan that plants trees across the state of Michigan. And it's not a city thing, but that's one of the things I do.
I've been on the city council for 12 years. Before I was in the city council, I served as a citizen on the Parks and Rec board. But as a member of the city council and the mayor, I've been on the housing commission, the planning commission, the crime commission, the downtown development authority, but also some outside regional groups. This month, I'll be elected as a board member of the Michigan Municipal League to continue the legacy of Councilwoman Margene Scott, who was a past president of that board. And I also serve on several local organizations, including the Men's Club. I'm the past president of the Kiwanis Club. I'm a coordinating fair housing attorney with the Fair Housing Center in Metro Detroit. I always volunteer with the Women's Club events. I'm a member, very active member of the Association of Chinese Americans. I'm an ambassador for the American Cancer Society and the Real Men Wear Pink program. I'm a volunteer with the American Red Cross, where I've donated over 8 gallons of blood. Isn't that crazy? And I organize my own boards and commissions, if you will. Every fall, I mentioned it, I rake leaves of the houses of disabled vets and low-income seniors. I'm very proud of this work. So thank you for being here tonight, everyone.
Okay, over the last couple decades, I've served as a JC for 7 years, 8 years on the school board. I've been on Parks and Recreation Advisory Board numerous years. I've been a community roundtable member. Let's see what else. I've helped both school districts with fundraising events and other boards and commissions. Let's see here. Oh, the Family Coalition Group. I was on that for a while, 30 seconds. I'm going to pass the torch and keep it moving. Thank you.
Let's see here. Well, right now I am service. Let's start out. I was the post commander for VFW 9507 here in Madison Heights, and then after that, I was the senior vice commander of the post for several years. And how that has to do with the city is we actually help run the Memorial Day Parade. It used to actually end at the post until they changed the route, which then started ending at the City Hall. And we would run the parade and help out, and we did that. And then I also volunteer a lot. I'm also used to be the vice president for AT&T Veterans ERG for the state of Michigan, and I'm now the district for VFW, the district legislative chairman, and I have 3 presidential volunteer service awards, which is like 100 or more hours a year that I've been awarded by the president's program there. So.
I've served on the multicultural board here with the city for 2 years prior, before running for city council. I serve currently, without making a lot of fuss about it, an organization that I found in honor of my parents, the John Mayoral Foundation, that is local to the city, online. I also work with a major health service company that provide directly medical care, food, housing fees, so many different needs of our seniors. I know I cannot say the company name because they're in Hazel Park, but we service Madison Heights. So every day, 5 days a week, from 9 to 6 o'clock, we go out, we reach residents right here in our city and surrounding cities, and we provide their needs. Because many, like I say, are fearful of coming forward and seeking help. In terms of the Multicultural Board, it was the greatest experience in working with other members, coming up with ideas under one of the council members. It provided me the opportunity to learn the issues most important to our residents. So I'm here, and I look forward to serving more. I just applied to our Senior Adult Advisory Board, and I reapplied to our Multicultural Board, and I will continue to do so way past our election. Thank you.
Not to disrespect the question, but I guess my first thought was which decade. Currently I serve on Parks and Recreation Commission, Zoning Board of Appeals off and on for a good number of years. Additionally, over the years I served on the Salary Compensation Commission. I did serve on the Election Commission. At one time, I was a member of the school board at Bishop Foley High School. That's my old alma mater. If you go back to the 60s, I was an appointee on the Madison House Board and then the Drug Abuse Study Committee. I did have a rather an extended term working with several church groups at the St. Denis, which is now closed, of course. My wife and I are active currently with the Madison Heights Goodfellows, which gives me a 10-second chance to plug the Goodfellows, which their season is coming up, believe it or not. I hate to say that. But please think of us come the Saturday after Thanksgiving. We'll be on the street corners soliciting for families and children.
So I joined the Arts Board a year ago this month. Within a few months of joining the Arts Board, I actually became the chair. Very excited with the work that we're doing for the community. We've had a lot of very successful events that allowed accessibility to some arts and culture activities for every citizen in this city. I also have my eye on the Downtown Development Authority as soon as there's an opening. I've attended one of their meetings. I actually introduced them to my friend Jennifer Zmarzlik, who's got a great idea for building out John R. Nature Trail that includes like the interactive map that'll go with it. I know they're now working with her to help start developing that idea on a small scale. I'm excited about the work I've done with that. I also run the Madison Heights Beautification Project, which does small scale cleanups around town, and I'm hoping that our One at a Time community response team will actually eventually become a city commission.
It is 8 o'clock. Unfortunately, we're going to have to stop the questions. I do have questions here for a couple of people on the panel. I will make sure they get your questions so they can answer them on their Facebook pages or however they want to communicate. And we thank everyone for attending.